Good evening, everyone. You are listening to Coffee Talk with Samantha and Paul, and I have Paul on the line, and we also have a very special guest. Tonight we have DeaShandrea Williams, and she is a nurse practitioner, and we're going to be talking things mental health. Hi, DeaShandrea.
Hello.
How are you? Hi, Paul.
Hi, guys. How you doing tonight?
Good. How are you, DeaShandrea? Thank you so much for coming on to the show tonight.
I'm doing good. Thanks for having me. How are you guys?
Oh, we're good. Thank you.
Well,
I'm good.
Yeah.
And now, DeaShandrea, where are you from? Where are we talking to you from tonight?
I am I live in Fort Worth, Texas right now. I am originally from Louisiana, a small rural area called Plain Dealing. So that's where I was born and raised, and I moved to Fort Worth about 2 years ago.
Oh, wow.
Right.
Fort Worth, Texas, right?
Yes.
Wow. What's it like down in Texas? I've been to Houston, and I've been to Dallas, but I've never been to Fort Worth. I think I flew into it.
Well, it's wonderful here besides the weather. If we could get the weather to stop being hot, cold, and rainy on on the same day, it would be great.
Yeah, you get those that it's quite temperate there, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because you have the Gulf of Mexico working against you and all that. Yeah. Do you still get those ice storms from time to time, or?
In the winter time.
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
Okay, yep. No, I did a project there in Houston a while back. In fact, I was just there not too long ago for an ADD conference. But, it's the weather is interesting.
Yeah. Yes.
It's
well,
very temperate. Yeah.
It's definitely not California weather.
Right.
Yeah, no. Where I am,
I'm in Ohio.
Yeah, I'm spoiled. Where I am in Southern California, I'm really spoiled. It's pretty much sunny, 72. So yeah, I'm about 2 miles from the beach. So I'm very blessed / spoiled from where I am.
And I'm in good old rainy northeast Ohio near the Cleveland, Akron area, where it's constantly gray, and we actually have a tornado watch again.
Oh no.
There it goes again.
Yep.
But anyways, DeaShandrea, you are in healthcare, correct?
I am.
Okay, tell us about that. Tell us how you got involved with healthcare, and then we will get into our mental health portion of this.
I have been a registered nurse for approximately 12 years. I've worked in various areas of the nursing field. I started out in surgical ICU, and I moved to psych. I've done psych. And then I went back to school to get my master's because I felt like I could help more people, especially the underprivileged. That's my passion, is helping people who are underprivileged, underinsured. So, and also the elderly. That's one of my loves too.
Oh, that's wonderful.
So I went back to school, and I got my master's degree at Northwestern State University in Louisiana, and I became a nurse practitioner. I've been a nurse practitioner, family nurse practitioner, since 2015, and the rest is history.
Wow.
Wonderful.
Congratulations. That's awesome. That is just extremely awesome. And I just want to thank you for working in mental health care and being a nurse practitioner. I don't know if you're aware of this, but I, too, worked in mental health care. I think I told you this, as a peer support specialist and as a case manager. Yes, and I worked with a lot of people that are underprivileged, too, when it comes to health insurance, and a lot of homeless people. And it's the most rewarding job that I can say I've ever done, but it's also the most challenging to see it and to work with it. And then me having my own mental health issues, I'm on the autism spectrum, plus I have bipolar and PTSD.
Well, I will say that any aspect that you have been in the healthcare industry, it is really a humbling experience. It is really gratifying. I used to speak to high school students, and I told them, I said, you will never be paid for all the work and all the giving that you give in health care. So, It takes a very special person to do that.
It does, and it takes a very empathetic, loving individual to do it. And the only reason I got out of it is because my son's high-functioning autism with bipolar, and then mine, and then I would go to work, and I would deal with the clients there, and then I'd come home and deal with it at home, and it was just enough bipolar to run me to the ground, sort of thing.
Just too overwhelming. Yeah.
It was overwhelming. I was overwhelmed, so I did leave community support services. Now, DeaShandrea, when we talk mental health, you are the expert. So Paul and I have some questions we want to ask you about it. When it comes, you know how LinkedIn is a professional networking site. And a lot of our viewers on CoffeeTalk are either on YouTube, Facebook, or LinkedIn. And what would you say, what first of all causes mania and stress-related situations?
Mania and stress-related situations, I think, comes from basically what you just said, being overwhelmed, taking on too much, more than you can handle, because all of that interrupts our sleep patterns, and we all know that when you don't get enough sleep, it does things to your neurotransmitters, which is responsible for our mental health, serotonin, dopamine, norepinephrine. It just throws our levels off, and so it throws us into either a manic stage or a depressed stage. So I think just taking on too much and being overwhelmed is really at the height of being in a manic situation.
You bring up an excellent point here as far as the lack of sleep. Have you found there's been a rise in manic situations or whatnot as a result of, since the advent of these electronic devices that we use, from using a laptop to now moving into different types of tablets, your iPhone and everything, it seems that, I don't know if it's just me or just have witnessed this, but it's like with all these electronic devices, we always feel prone to feeling the need to check these devices all the time. And like we'll wake up in the middle of the night and you check it or whatever, and then something happens and you're depriving yourself of sleep perhaps. Have you found that there's a correlation between the two? And or what have you found it in your experience, or
between using electronics and sleep deprivation?
Yes. Have you found that since the advent of these electronic devices that I've just heard stories or whatnot, and then just read articles about people are being deprived of sleep because they just don't get a good night's sleep as a result of these devices, because it's like one more mouth to feed, or an electronic mouth to feed, if you will. It's one more thing you got to check. It's one more thing that's on your mind. It's one more thing, that it's keeping you from getting a good night's sleep, is what I've heard, at least. And I'm curious if you've experienced that in your field.
And that's true. That's definitely true. And you're like you say, you're just one more thing to do. It's one more thing to do, whether it's checking an email for work or playing games or on social media. It definitely takes away from sleep and sometimes can add stress depending on what you're doing on the electronic device. So definitely, and that can be, if somebody already has a mental health issue, that can be one of those things that kind of pushes them to the manic side.
Sure. Okay. That is interesting, because I've heard of this. I'm just curious if you've seen a rise in possible manic cases as a result of this, like because of the tablets or whatnot, people are checking all their emails. Now you're getting less and less sleep. Because of less and less sleep, is it leading to more cases of mania? I'm just curious if there's a correlation there.
Go ahead, Samantha. I'm sorry.
Oh, I was going to say, I wonder if it's leading to mania, and to some cases where when people get manic, they get obsessive, impulsive, and paranoia.
That's definitely true. And the obsessiveness, that kind of compounds the situation because, with obsession, you're obsessed with checking it. So checking this and checking that and doing, you just set it going, and that leads to more sleep deprivation. And so, it kind of compounds the situation.
Wow. Yeah, it's definitely something. Now, DeaShandrea, in your experience with the mental health industry, if you could tell, I have a question before Paula, you're going to ask the question too. I know if you could tell our listeners one thing about mental health, I just want you to think on it for a minute, and then I'm going to let Paul ask his question. But towards the end of this, if you could give our listeners one piece of advice when it comes to mental health and taking care of themselves, what's that going to be? But think on that, and then Paul, ask your question.
Yeah, I was just curious if there's a way to help keep sort of the mental health issues or something like that in check. What is it? Is it like put away the tablet? Put away the stop the problem before it starts kind of a thing. Like it's like just say, look, it's now 9:30, it's now 10 o'clock, whatever it is. Shut off all your electronics. Just shut them off and get yourself a good night's sleep. And would that help to somewhat reverse the problem, if you will?
Well, I think that definitely with anything that's mental health, cognitive behavior therapy is definitely at the top of the list, and it has been proven to work. And what that is replacing those negative behaviors, as you will, or negative thoughts with something positive. So if you are not getting a good night's sleep, or you're sleep deprived, then, whatever's causing that, then yes, we have to set some boundaries and set some limits.
Right.
So if we turn that tablet off, if that's what's causing your sleep deprivation, then, we have to set a time where you can get the proper amount of sleep. So yes, definitely we have to set boundaries, especially for those people who are already suffering from mental health issues like bipolar.
Absolutely.
Yes. And like with, you hit the nail on the head, DeaShandrea, when you said set the boundaries. Especially people with like my disorder, we have illness problems when it comes to boundary setting. For people with me that have been through PTSD, I have it from sexual abuse from my father, and the bipolar stems back from that too. But people with my disorder already have boundary problems. So what would you say for someone that is in a work field that on setting the boundaries in mental health? How would you suggest that someone could set some healthy boundaries?
Definitely, when you're talking about boundaries, you have to stick with it. You have to be stern in the boundaries that you set. So I always say that you really, really need to have somebody who can hold you to it, I guess is the way to say it. Somebody who can help you stay on track.
And hold you accountable for it.
Yes, hold you accountable. Help you stay on track and, tell you when you're not doing things that you said you would do. So you have to have an accountability partner, and it has to be someone who can be stern and who can really help you, because if they're weak, then, as you know, some people with bipolar, they push boundaries.
Yes, we do.
And they will, if you're weak, they will run all over you. So you have to have somebody who is strong-minded and who's stern and who's going to stick to what the plan that you have set for.
Yes. And and you put that right again on the nail on the head. With me, with the bipolar, I will admit I don't mean to do it to other people, but I sometimes do run all over people. And I don't mean it as anything bad. It's just my personality. I can be very impulsive, and I'll push people's boundaries in the nicest way humanly possible because I truly care about them, but I forget that they have the boundaries. I think that becomes a problem with mental health, is that the person with mental health issues, they really honestly cannot see the boundaries that other people set. At least that's how I am.
And that's true. Whether it be with some people, they really can't see the boundaries, but with some people, they are just very manipulative also.
Yes.
I would just throw that out there. And they manipulate to get what they want. So that's when that strong personality, that accountability partner steps in and reminds you of, oh, no, this is what we said was going to happen, and this is what we need to do. Because, but once again, when you have cognitive behavioral therapy, you're talking about changing behaviors. So changing the way that you think and changing the way that you behave is very important. And even if you have to set up kind of a reward system, you know, a lot of people will be like, we're not 3-year-olds, but reward systems really do work.
Do they?
They do.
Like a small reward, say if you keep a boundary or if you accomplish something positive, you take yourself out for ice cream or you get your nails done or something like that?
Yes.
Okay, yeah. What now? I have one question, another personal question. Does cognitive therapy, behavioral, DeaShandrea, does it work for the disorder of OCD and trichotillomania? You know, the hair picking disease.
It really does work. Actually, a lot of professionals will say that cognitive behavioral therapy and medication together is better than being on medication alone.
Yes.
So
that's
the combination of the two gets a better result than just, you know, giving somebody a pill and say, hey, go and take this and you're going to be fine. Because if you do that, the behavior doesn't change. You're just really not getting to the root of the problem.
Yeah, you're just kind of
you're just sugarcoating it. Yes. Yeah. And that's a requirement. That's actually a stipulation for my mental health agency that I go to. If I want to see my psychiatrist, she mandates that I have to have weekly therapy sessions.
Yeah, and
so I see a
that's
psychologist.
Probably the reason why is because it is a proven fact that the medication are pharmacotherapeutic and psychotherapeutic together works better than just medication alone.
Yes. Now, as you know, DeaShandrea, we were all talking about this, you, Paul, and I, we prayed beforehand. CoffeeTalk, we are a Christian podcast, and it's not just for Christians, it's for everybody. It's for everybody to hear about us. If you take, I've said on my post on LinkedIn that we were going to do 2 Timothy, the power and love of a sound mind. For God hath not given us the spirit of fear, but the power and love of a sound mind. If you could tell our listeners, DeaShandrea, from a mental health perspective and just from a nurse practitioner perspective, working in the medical field, what you believe is a sound mind.
My thing is, of course, as a nurse practitioner, I would like to say that a lot of people don't really know much about our profession, but as nurse practitioners, we do use a holistic approach to care. So we treat patients mind, body, and spirit. I believe spirituality plays a big role in health and healing. So a sound mind, to me, with that being said, is basically stability and being grounded in what you believe and in your faith, whatever you believe, whatever your faith is, you're grounded in that. Because sometimes when we see mental illness occur, it's from people pushing their perspective on others and causing confusion. And we know that confusion is not of God, so that causes a lot of issues. But I want to say, too, that it's okay. A sound mind, with that, it's okay for you to experience all of the emotions, the happiness, the sadness, the grief, the anger. But when you talk about having a sound mind, you experience those things and you move on. And when we talk about mental illness, people who experience those things, they are stuck in the
yes.
I see. Right.
They're stuck in the stage of being angry, and they are either on one end of the spectrum or the other. They're in the extremes of happiness, which equates to mania, or sadness, which equates to depression. So there's no really
a gray area
in between there.
Yeah.
So people with a sound mind definitely are stable in their thinking and in their feelings.
So all in all, you would say that it contemplates to stability.
Yes.
I agree completely. I completely agree. A balance, a stability, yes. And the thing with mental illness, while we have you on the topic of it, and I know you said you work with people that are not as privileged when it comes to like health insurance and stuff like that, there is such a stigma that goes on with mental illness that I kind of wanted to touch base on. And I know you see it. I've seen it as working in mental health care. How could you, as a professional, what would you tell somebody with a mental illness about the stigma and how to just kind of ignore it, how to step out against stigma?
Well, it's definitely there. There's that elephant in the room. And actually, I was talking with somebody the other day about it, and how people really don't give the same attention to mental illness as they do physical illness. But it really is the same thing, because even with mental illness, we see that there's physical changes going on. Like I said, in our brain, there are chemical changes that happen in mental illness. And what I would say is you have to be yourself, and you have to be comfortable with being yourself, and knowing that everybody's not going to accept you, but you don't have to change who you are.
Right.
So that is one of the major things, is just keep being you and keep seeking the help that you need, regardless of what everybody else is saying around you, because people have the tendency to stigmatize and call people crazy, which is really a bad word. And
it is a bad word.
Yeah,
I know.
Right.
And,
it is.
We have to talk. I feel like there needs to be more conversation about mental health, because the more that we educate people who are not dealing with mental illness, I think the more acceptance there'll be.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yes, that is absolutely beautiful, DeaShandrea. That is wonderful.
Right.
And like Paul and I know, we had my friend Toinette on CoffeeTalk a while back in February, and Toinette used to be my manager at the healthcare place, the practice that I worked at. She was she was studying psychology, and she was working on a PhD. Well, anyways, she does a podcast called An Emotional Dinosaur, and she is like on this verge of trying to break stigma, trying to end stigma. And she posted on Facebook today, believe it or not, saying that it's now starting to come around that they are going to have mental health agencies where it is more like a physical checkup. It's not going to be as hush, 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 oh, we got to go to a psychiatrist. It's going to be, I'm going to the doctor, I'm going to a psychiatrist, because people are starting to realize mental health is just as important as physical health.
Great.
And I think that's wonderful. I just think it's amazing. Finally.
We're seeing that everywhere, too.
Yes.
Where There are actually, I don't know if it's happened already or if it's about to happen, but mental health clinics being set up in like stores like Walmart.
Really?
Oh,
I
wow.
haven't seen that yet.
So it's happening, and so I think that is a great step in the right direction, because used to there was hospitals on every corner, but there was nowhere for people to go and really, really seek the care that they need for their mental health issues. There's apps being made for people with mental health. I mean, we're seeing a lot of stuff happening in the mental health section of healthcare that's leading us in a good direction of bringing it to the forefront and making everybody aware that this is just as important as health, our physical health. Our mental health is just as important.
Yes, I agree. I completely agree. That is so beautifully well said, DeaShandrea. I completely agree with you. Because I go back to me a lot because I am a mental health client. And it's not funny. I'm not laughing at myself, but I'm just saying it's ironic that we're on this and I have my own issues. But when I first was diagnosed with the bipolar in 2008, I didn't want anyone to know. I was afraid of it. I was afraid of what people were going to say about me. People started calling me, "Oh, Sam's crazy." And that word crazy is such a terrible word, because there is no quote-unquote normal in this world. There's no really a normalcy. And people say, "Oh, that one's normal," or "She's normal," "He's normal," but there's no such thing as normal. Anyways, I was really, for a while, I kind of looked down upon myself. But then I went to a psychiatrist at Community Support Services where I worked before I worked there, and his name was Dr. Todd Wilkie. And he said to me one time, he said the best thing I think I've ever heard. He said, "Sam," he said, "you're just like everybody else." He said, "There's police officers that have bipolar. There is doctors that have bipolar." He said, "You have nothing to be ashamed of." And he was right. Todd was right. Dr. Wilkie was right, that I had nothing to be ashamed of, that it's not something that is, "Oh, look at Sam, she's a nut." It's, "Look at Sam, she's beautiful in her own way."
That's definitely, yes.
Yeah, and I mean, I just, like psychiatrists and nurse practitioners and psychologists and everybody, case managers, people that work in the front lines of mental illness and healthcare, I just give so much love and support to. I just thank them every day. Like, I'll still go in and talk to my friends at Community Support Services. I still will message them or call them or something. But I just thank people like you, DeaShandrea, and other people that work in the healthcare setting of mental illness, that you do it, that you have enough love and compassion for mental health patients. I just thank you, because I've been through it myself.
Well, it's great to be appreciated, and you don't know how much that really does mean, because sometimes we're not as appreciated. So
I know
that really does mean a lot.
Because it's like, without doctors and nurse practitioners and nurses and case managers, some people wouldn't make it to the next day. Like the people that are homicidal or suicidal or have no one to go to. Without the mental health care people and people in health care, there would be more suicides, there would be more murders, there would be more loneliness and sadness and depression and mania.
Right.
But it's because of people like DeaShandrea and my friend Dr. Wilkie and other people that I know, and people that Paul knows, people that DeaShandrea knows, and the whole scheme of mental health care. It's people like you that are making a difference for people like me.
And, I just say that mental health, even as a general practitioner, that's one thing that you will always run into. I mean, it's everywhere, and people are suffering with it, and people sometimes they don't even realize what's really happening. They know that something's not right, but they don't know what. And of course, because it's a mental thing, they're afraid to talk about it. And
right.
I would say, as of course everybody probably knows now, I'm an African American, and it is very, very frowned upon in our culture, you know, for mental illness, any kind of mental illness. We don't really kind of come out with it. We just hide it, and we don't seek help for it. And I think that that is going to get better as the stigma dies with mental health. I think we'll start to seek more help from mental health professionals as the clinics open. And
yeah, I was going to say, like, as these, like, minute clinics, if you will, start popping up more, and it becomes, you know, more advertised or whatnot, and it starts becoming more the norm, it will probably be, again, more widely accepted. Like, oh, yeah, I'm going to a Walgreens or whatever, I'll stop by the minute clinic and just, right? I would imagine something like that. You can, something you would want to do, like a self-diagnosis, if you will.
A minute clinic tune-up.
Or diagnostic. Yeah, right. Right.
Yeah. I think it'll be a more of a open conversation, you know,
right.
Instead of, like Samantha said, instead of living with the secret of mental illness and keeping it to yourself and feeling like you're gonna be frowned upon for having a mental illness, it'll be more of open conversation and being able to talk about it and share, you know, what you've been through, because you never know, you sharing your story with someone else may be the key to their healing and the key to push them to go seek help for themselves.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, that kind of even goes all the way back to the time of when Alcoholics Anonymous was, you know, what manifested, just the concept of, you know, having group discussions. I'm suffering from this, and I admit this freely, and then when you can share this together, that you are all kind of suffering together, you all sort of heal together at the same time, because it's more than just simply having a doctor or whatever. You have, like, friends now. It's like, it's like, yeah, we get this. You know, we understand.
And the
you know,
sharing is
right.
The sharing is freer. You know, some things, and I will say some things that you don't feel comfortable telling your doctor or your nurse practitioner or whoever you're seeing, but it's easier to share your circumstances, your situation, what you've done and what you've been through with people who are like you.
Right.
Yes, like support groups.
Yes.
Exactly.
Yes, having the support group or peer support, and that's the main purpose of what my job was at Community Support Services, is a peer support specialist. Me having gone through it, I helped other people with my own story.
And that's the beauty of it. And I think that we need more people to stand up and do those kind of things, volunteer to help other people through sharing their story and what they've been through.
Right.
Yes. More testimonies of faith, more walks with the stories of what they've been through and what people have overcome. I think it would really help a lot of people. I really do. Wow. Well, this has been a wonderful coffee talk. I'm so excited about this tonight. This is just amazing. I just thank you so much from the top to the bottom of my heart. Being in mental health care and being on our Coffee Talk. And I hope after this, maybe you and Paul and I can get together. We can Coffee Talk again sometime soon.
That would be great.
Great. Thank you. Well, Paul, do you have any more questions,
No.
DeaShandrea?
I guess if there's not sure if you have any parting things you'd like to add, DeaShandrea, or if there's anyone that you think, if you have is there a website or anything you recommend for people who are like, hey, I'm kind of how do I get started? Where do I even begin here?
Would you recommend a NAMI or?
Right.
I would say definitely the first step for me would be to find a support group.
Yeah.
Find a support group, because when you go to a support group, they're able to share with you. And also, a lot of those people there, they have recommendations for great psychiatrists, psychologists that you can go see. So definitely support groups in your area, mental health clinics, because also what we're seeing is a lot of faith-based clinics that are clinics pop up, and they offer all services like physical health checkups, mental health, dental, you name it. They have those professionals. So definitely check in your area to see if you have one, because we have one here in Arlington. So they're doing great work.
Yes.
Oh, that's fantastic.
And that is wonderful, DeaShandrea. Now, remember that question I asked you at the beginning of our show? If you could tell one person on Coffee Talk, one of our listeners on Coffee Talk, about mental health and mental illness, what would you want to share with somebody that's on LinkedIn or that is on our Coffee Talk or that has mental health issues? What is one thing that you would want to tell them?
I would say that definitely be who you are and do not be afraid. Don't be fearful of not being accepted, because as Samantha has said, there is no normal. Nobody is normal. Who defines who is normal?
Right.
So be yourself and don't let others dictate your life. Take control of who you are and live your best life. But definitely seek help when you need it, and don't be ashamed. And my thing is, one of the things that comes to my mind about mental health and treatment is it's actually a scripture from Romans 12:2, I think it is, and it says, "Be not conformed to this world, but be ye transformed by the renewing of your mind." I think that renewing our mind is very important, whether it be through prayer, meditation, cognitive behavioral therapy, self-care, self-love, whatever it is. Make sure that your mind is renewed, because a lot of the times what we see where stress comes from is from other people dictating who we are, who we should be, those kind of things. So just be true to yourself is one of the major points that I want to say. Be true to yourself.
That's wonderful.
Yes,
Thank you.
Beautiful.
So much. That's good.
Yes, DeaShandrea, thank you so much for being honest. I just love you to pieces.
Thank
you.
Thank you guys for having me.
All right.
Oh, you're welcome. Well, all of you, thank you so much. This has been Coffee Talk with Samantha and Paul and our very special guest, nurse practitioner DeaShandrea Williams. And everybody, take a look at us, listen to us on YouTube, see us on LinkedIn, and we will join you next week for Coffee Talk. Thank you so much again, DeaShandrea. I love you guys. I love you, Paul. And we will talk to you later. Bye, everyone.
Okay.
Have a good night. Bye-bye.